Piers Morgan. Oh my god. Piers is gonna be, oh my god, Piers is such a slimy, gross person. Like really just like the scummiest type of scum that you can imagine. He's really, I mean, oh my, this is gonna be hilarious.
I don't find it funny at all. Planned killing of a civilian by a ruthless assassin would usually provoke outrage from everybody, no matter their politics. But that's not what happened when this brilliant man shot dead Brian Thompson, the CEO of United Healthcare, which is the biggest health insurer in the United States. The assassin left behind 3 bullets scored with the words depose, deny, and defend. Reaction in some quarters has been almost celebratory.
I saw someone say this is like finding out about Robin Hood in the 1300s. Like every new update that comes from this guy, I'm like, that's so sick.
Deny, depose, defend. If that isn't
I do think it's kind of cringe that like there were a lot of like big left figures that were like, oh, you know, like this dude is like so cool and all that stuff, and like honestly, it's the audio needs to be a little louder. All right, I'll put it on a little bit, and then you can let me know how good it sounds. But it is kind of, I don't know, like if he ends up being some, you know, fucking fashy right winger, you know, is Hassan still gonna feel the same way? You know, even if a broken clock is right, you know, twice a day, the clock is still broken and it needs to be tossed the fuck out. You know what I mean?
a loud, clear message to all these CEOs.
Anyway, long story short, what I'm trying to say is, you know, before you go around praising someone, let's just wait a little bit, you know, and find out who they are.
Across the board of these health insurance companies, I don't know what is.
We feel like we're living parallel lives with the elite in our country.
When you see the entire internet, left and right, united around one thing, and that is celebrating, I hate to say it too, the death of a healthcare CEO, you have to ask why. And I don't think that has been discussed at all.
Well, we'll discuss that tonight because critics of this eyebrow-raising response to a murder, cold-blooded execution, included Ben Shapiro this weekend, who said it's evidence that leftist revolutionary violence has now become mainstream. There was a notably different response on the left to the case of Daniel Penny, who was charged with manslaughter after the violent homeless man he restrained on the subway tragically died. Well, today, just before we came on air, Daniel Penny walked free from court, not guilty of either manslaughter or criminally negligent homicide. And in further breaking news, authorities say they're now questioning a man in central...
Wait, what was the Penny case? Like, was that homeless man, like, actually, like, hurting some, like, people or something? I thought he was just kind of, like, bugging out.
Pennsylvania, who was found with a gun similar to the one used in the shooting of Brian Thompson. The man being held was also in possession of a 2-page document railing against the healthcare industry and suggesting that violence is the answer. Well, the New York Times says Luigi Mangione, an anti-capitalist former Ivy League student, was taken into custody this morning at a McDonald's. Here to discuss all this.
I love how Piers, you know, has to mention the anti-capitalist thing because he knows that his audience will associate that with left-wingers when there are right-wing anti-capitalists. And actually, he's fairly fond of some of them, I would imagine, right? You know, the fascies.
This is tailored around.
Hold on, take a look.
Ah, shit.
News site on Substack, Tommy Lahren, host of Tommy Lahren.
Oh shit, Tommy Lahren.
Professor Mark Lamont Hill, host of...
He was bugging
News.
out and threw some trash.
All of you. I want to start with the Daniel Penny breaking news, if I can, with you, Tommy, because I've been sort of incandescent about this case, as I think you have from the start. The idea that a war hero is in his civilian life on a subway and watches a completely deranged lunatic threatening to kill people, and he apprehends him and prevents him from harming anybody, and in the process, clearly, accidentally, didn't mean to do this.
Did Jordan Neely actually touch anyone, or was he just kind of like bugging out? Like, was he just kind of like having like a freak out, or was he actually like approaching people and really having getting physical with people?
The guy falls unconscious and then he dies, and it's a tragic accident that happened, but it was entirely precipitated by this deranged lunatic going on a subway and threatening to kill people. A subway system, by the way, in New York, where people have been killed quite regularly in recent years. This guy.
Wait, what did Piers just say? People have been killed regularly in New York? Hasn't New York had like the lowest violent crime rate? Violent crime rate in NYC year by year. The framing. He's such a piece of shit. Piers is such a piece of shit. Citywide 7. Where would I find this?
Is a hero, and yet he was treated like a criminal who should be thrown into jail for the rest of his life. Now, I think justice has been served, and he's been released, a free man, but with huge damage to his life, to his reputation, and so on. What do you make of this case?
Well, I'll also say damage to his reputation if he chooses to remain in New York City. If he comes to a great red state like the one I'm in right now, Tennessee or Texas or many other great states around this country, he'll be treated like the hero that he is. There's a lot I have to say on this, Piers, but I'd also say for those BLM grifters who are now coming out threatening to burn down the city, making this all about their race-baiting grift, how dare you, and shame on you. You did not care about Jordan Neely when he was a homeless man living on the streets, struggling with mental health problems and possibly a drug addiction.
Wait, Tommy, yes, the fuck the left did. Now, maybe we did not literally know Jordan Neely's name, okay? But the policies that the left advocates for would have directly helped him to help him get back on his feet, get the help that he needed to get better. It would have given him treatment. It would have probably given him a place to live at and be safe. You know? Like, why? She's literally just living in a fantasy. Like, I'm pretty sure she's argued publicly against a lot of the policies that the left has proposed that would directly solve a lot of these issues. Housing, you know? Holy shit, I just had it I just fucking glitched for a second. You know, but housing, Medicare for all, you know, like, what the fuck? The guy was neutralized, was not a threat to anyone, was being held down. People around him said, hey, let go, you're going to kill him. He refused, and he ended up killing him. That's what I remember, too. That he was kind of like bugging out. For some reason, it ended up getting into a confrontation with this dude. And then he just held him in a chokehold, like, for no fucking reason, until he just stopped moving.
You didn't care about him then. You probably stepped over him on your way elsewhere. But now all of a sudden, when you can use his name and you can use his death to fundraise for BLM or to get out your pent-up aggression or to claim racism, now all of a sudden you care about someone like Jordan Neely? It's all too rich for me, Piers. Expect to see New York City once again descend into mayhem and chaos because BLM needs attention. The pro-terrorist, anti-Semites, anti-Israel protesters have been taking all the wind out of their sails, getting all the attention, so now they want to be back in the headlines.
Tommy is so fucking funny. Like she's just like, let me say every single fucking buzzword that I can think of. Just let me say every single buzzword that comes into my mind. To try and trigger, to try and own the libs.
But I don't think they're going to be met with the same sentiment that they had with George Floyd in 2020. People are sick and tired of this, and people know that Daniel Penny was a hero, is a hero, and should be treated like one.
Well, that's how I feel. A lot of people don't. Hawk Newsom, the founder of BLM in New York, has said that anyone who thinks Penny is innocent has racism in their heart before saying the KKK got another victory. Hypocrisy. Now, I want to play, before I go to you, Mark, I want to play, this is a clip of Jordan Neely's father talking about his reaction to the verdict.
I just want to say, I miss my son. My son didn't have to go through this. I didn't have to go through this either. It hurts. Really, really hurts. What are we going to do, people?
Piers is fucking disgusting. He's literally just like parading this man's despair so that his audience can
The system is rigged.
Now, Mark,
so that his
sorry,
audience can laugh at him. Like
I've got a lot
that's
of feeling for any father whose son dies in those circumstances. But the idea the system has been rigged over this.
Yeah, dude, you feel so bad. So let's just start like debating over, like this clip of him mourning over his dead child and the acquittal of his murderer.
The idea that this guy, Jordan Neely, clearly mentally unwell, homeless, and potentially violent. Nobody knew his propensity for violence. Potentially violent?
So he wasn't even violent? I was like reading this article like on the side, this New York Times article about the case, because I wanted to, just try to refresh my memory on this a little bit. But damn, Piers, you just gave it up. So he was just potentially violent? What the fuck? So then what was the point of escalating it to a physical altercation like that? Why did Penny bring it to that level?
All they knew was he was acting in a very threatening way and threatening to kill people. And you have a guy who's from the military, who knows how to disarm people, who did exactly what he was trained to do. And then an accident occurred.
What? Disarm him how? Did he have a weapon? Are they going to talk about that?
And it's incredibly unfortunate. But he did not want to let this guy go in case he got up and carried out his threat. Are you really going to try and argue? I don't know if you are. I'm just pointing a question to you, really. But is this really the way it's being framed, as a victory for the KKK? That if you don't think this guy is guilty, you've got racism in your heart?
I don't think that that's the dominant position from people like myself who are critical of what happened and who are disappointed in the outcome of the trial. I think it's too simplistic to say that anybody who disagrees with me is a member of the KKK or has beliefs like the KKK. I think that becomes almost like a straw man argument. I think there are a few things that we need to talk about with regard to framing. The first thing is, as you pointed out, Piers, this man is mentally unwell.
Oh my God, fuck, bro. I really hate fucking commercials and ads, and that's just the worst fucking thing on the planet. Like, I don't know why anyone would ever do that. It's just really fucking dumb.
Struggling with mental illness. That's very different than the initial introduction to this segment that you gave, where you said he was a deranged lunatic. And as you repeated multiple times, deranged lunatic, it would communicate to the audience and to everyday people everywhere that the only way to stop this person from destroying the subway and killing everybody was to put him in a 6-minute chokehold.
But he was behaving like a deranged lunatic. Sorry, Mark, he was. I mean, it's indisputable. Nobody knew at the time what his mental health status was. All they knew was he was behaving. He was behaving in a lunatic manner, threatening and potentially dangerous. Nobody knew if he was.
Wait, you can't keep saying potentially dangerous and then saying that he was justified in being murdered. If he was potentially dangerous, that means that. Are we just going, dude? Every time. So anytime someone yells at me or starts fucking acting in some way that I perceive as like them acting crazy, I can say, dude, you're being potentially dangerous. Let me just fucking choke you out. Let me just strangle you. Is that really the position that Piers is taking right now? Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. He was being belligerent, throwing trash. He said he didn't mind going to jail. I mean, cool. Yeah, like, that's definitely not cool, and he should have maybe gone to jail, I guess. I don't know, like, but he was neutralized. Exactly, he was neutralized. Like, there was no need to bring it to the next level where he died.
He was armed. Nobody knew what he might do. People were terrified. So I'm afraid, for all intents and purposes, the guy was behaving like a deranged lunatic. It turns out, after the event, we discover he has mental illness. But let's not pretend that in the moment he wasn't acting like a deranged lunatic, because he was.
I wasn't. I wasn't saying that. You interrupted before I could finish the thought. You would understand I wasn't saying that. What I'm saying is that someone with a mental illness may or may not be violent. Most people with mental illnesses in public space, according to all the evidence, all the data, are not violent threats. And so I'm saying that we should not presume that they are. I don't have an issue with you saying, hey, I'm going to subdue this person because I believe that they are unsafe for the particular context that we're in. What I take issue with is saying that I'm going to put them in a 6-minute chokehold because that's the only way to stop them from doing harm when we don't know that. And that's the additional piece of this.
Out of interest,
the second piece of this.
What would you have done?
Piers. No, Piers, you spoke uninterrupted, and so did the other guests. So let me finish the thought before you disagree with it, please.
Fair enough.
The second point here is I actually agree with, which is that there are systemic issues here. There's poverty, there's homelessness, there are all these things that a lot of the world does not pay attention to until there is a crisis. That's not a BLM issue, that's not a conservative issue, that's not a left or right issue. The fact of the matter is we ignore this. The failure of the system here is not what happened on that subway, it's the fact that a person with mental illness can go untreated, unsupported, and houseless without any support, and then we end up with situations like this.
Right, but for his father to be lecturing everybody in the way that he did, again, I don't have a lack of empathy for him losing his son, but the lecture that he gave, you know, his son is wandering around as a homeless, mentally ill.
Wait, the system is, wait, what? The lecture? What the fuck is Piers talking about? The lecture? Dude, Piers is a heartless piece of shit, honestly. He really is just a heartless piece of shit. I don't know how this man goes to sleep at night.
Person on the subway threatening people. You know, with all due respect to his father, where was his father in his life? I mean, is that a reasonable question to ask? If that was one of my sons, I would feel an accountability and responsibility for the actions of one of my children. Would you?
Dude, the load.
I probably would, but I also don't think that that's the most
This is so
question.
fucking
I may
loaded.
share with you the opinion. In fact, I do share with you the opinion that, hey, we should talk about family structures. We should talk about parenting. We should talk about fatherhood. But when a father's son is dead in this moment, we as a nation, just like with the healthcare issue, we have an opportunity to talk about the broader system instead of us criticizing how a mourning father is dealing with his dead son. Let's talk about the conditions that got us there. Let's not play a blame game.
Well, we're going to come to the cold-blooded execution of a healthcare executive, which I think is unfathomable to me that people would celebrate that happening literally within seconds of the guy being gunned down.
Bro.
But we're going to come to that debate in a moment, and obviously, Taylor, you.
You know, a homeless man who was just kind of like having a bad day deserves to be strangled to death in public on the subway. That's what Piers just said. That's okay. Healthcare executive who has probably killed many thousands of people by, denying their claims, making them go bankrupt, making them unable to afford a basic standard of living, that allowed them to, to be healthy, denying them care that they desperately need. Listen, there are a lot of types of violence in the world, right? And some of it is, like people going out there and shooting someone, and that's like what I call hard violence, like it's in your face, it's like it's very easily noticeable, it draws a lot of attention. And then there's what I call soft violence, which is like the policies of an insurance company that will deny you care because of a pre-existing condition. Okay? And then you are just kind of suffering and in debt, and you can't make ends meet, because, you're just trying to survive by getting the medicine that you need. But the medicine that you need is so exorbitantly expensive that, just to go and buy eggs is, you're counting pennies at the end of the week. This is actually a real thing that happens to many Americans, and many of them actually do die because of those policies. They pay every month into an insurance plan that at the end of the day can tell them, actually, we're not going to cover the care that you need. Yeah, you pay into us every month, but we're going to decide, because we want a big fat bonus at the end, that you're not going to be covered.
You're going to be a key part of that. But Tommy, I just sense that there's already a building momentum for this to be treated like a mini George Floyd situation. Now, I found the George Floyd story horrific. I thought what that police officer did was indefensible and appalling, but it's a completely different set of circumstances. This guy, Daniel Penny, is a Marine veteran, he's on a subway, and he's watching somebody directly threatening to kill people. And he apprehends him, and he holds him down because he doesn't want him to be a threat to the lives of people around him.
Chokehold.
That used to be the kind of behavior that would win people medals for valor. Now you end up in a criminal court facing the rest of your life in a...
Hi, I'm JT, and I made...
Jesus Christ.
And that's what I find so just... I can't understand it. How has society moved to punishing people like Daniel Penny for doing a good citizen's job, trying to protect people? I don't get it.
Jesus Christ.
Well, you only can understand it if you're in Manhattan and you're in the mind of DA Alvin Bragg. There's a whole lot we can talk about there. Not a lot of things that office wants to prosecute outside of Donald Trump and Daniel Penny and other heroes. But I would also say this, when we're talking about this case and Daniel Penny, and we're talking about the race element here, let's keep in mind, Daniel Penny is a big guy, he's strong, he's young, he's a former Marine. If he's on that subway and Jordan Neely comes in threatening people, probably the last person that's going to be the victim is Daniel Penny. He can hold his own. Daniel Penny stood up to protect people that maybe couldn't protect themselves, right. The women, the children. Also, if you look at the footage from that subway, a lot of those people in the subway were people of color. So you have a white man that's standing up to protect people of color in a subway, and yet BLM is so desperate for their grift and for their attention that they really want to make this about race. The way I see it is you have a Marine, who cares that he's white, standing up to protect people. He didn't care what
What the fuck is she going on about right now? This is crazy. She's like unhinged. This is an unhinged rant.
Color Neely was. He didn't care what color the people were around him. Yeah. He wanted to do the right thing.
I completely agree. Mark, it has nothing to do with skin color. And people that try and imply that it is, they are the ones playing the race card. I honestly believe that on this story. I've studied it in detail. I've seen all the footage. I've seen all the accounts. This is not a race story. Daniel Penny didn't do anything.
it's not a race story. He just killed a random homeless man for having like a fit. Like I don't know. And yeah, like I don't really care that he was a Marine. He still murdered someone. Like
predicated on the skin color of Jordan Neely. He did it to protect people, as Tommy said, black, white, whoever.
There was no need to protect anyone from someone who they don't even know if that person was going to be dangerous or not. A homeless person just kind of like yelling and stuff, it is not dangerous. You just ignore that person. That's it.
They were a multiracial subway at the time. Right? Where's the race element of this?
I'm fascinated by the certainty with which you say
you tell me
he
why
wasn't
I'm wrong.
motivated by
Tell me why I'm
race.
wrong.
I'm not telling you you're wrong. What I'm telling you is that I have no idea what was in Daniel Penny's head. He could have been motivated by race. He could not have been motivated by race.
The jury did. That's why they just cleared him.
I would disagree with anyone who says.
Was the charge that? Wait, was he being charged with a hate crime? I thought that he was just being charged with some type of murder charge. And then just to bring it back, the guy was neutralized. There was no need to have to they had him, that was it.
He did that because of race. But I would also disagree with you saying unequivocally that race wasn't on his mind. You have no idea, but you have
there is no
tendency
evidence.
to say things
There's no evidence.
You have but
zero.
I agree with you, and that's why
zero evidence.
And that's why.
So it's completely concocted.
I disagree with that. It's not completely concocted when you look at actual data on these types of things. But the bigger issue
data
for me,
on
because
these
again,
types
I'm not
of
making
things.
a race argument.
How many types of these have there been?
Because
give me another one.
How many times?
How many times has a Marine veteran done a 6-minute chokehold to protect people on a subway?
Oh my God, bro! Piers is he's so fucking bad faith. Jesus Christ. Mark is talking about how, black people, are often the subject of some type of, societal violence, whether it be by the police or the legal system broadly, or some random fucking person on the subway who decides that they're bugging out and need to be fucking murdered that day. That's what Mark is talking about. And Piers is like, okay, well, you're telling me that actually Marines are out there every single day, specifically finding homeless black people to murder? Like, shut the fuck up, Piers. That's not what we're talking about. That's not what we're talking about. Like, you're being purposely misleading here.
Way from somebody who shouted, "I'm going to kill you." How many times has that happened that you can rattle off right now, given you say it happens all the time?
So Piers, to be clear, I said things like this happen all the time, and the kind of sardonic question that you're asking seems clever to people who aren't smart, but as someone who's a trained social scientist, you don't have to have the exact same contextual factors to make comparisons.
Sorry, Mark, I'm sorry. You don't have to be a trained social scientist.
For example, it were a school bus instead of a subway, it wouldn't make it less important. If you were an Army vet instead of a Marine vet, it wouldn't make it less relevant. It's a silly question to ask me, when was the last time where a Marine vet on a subway, blah, 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 blah. That's not the point.
Okay, so
my point is,
all
I
right,
never made it about race.
Hang on.
I never made it about race.
Hang on. So far, you've called me dumb, silly, and you say you're...
I didn't call you dumb.
What kind of scientist are you?
I didn't call you dumb.
What scientist are you?
Time out. You're not listening. I think you're very smart. I think you're making an argument that will only be persuasive to people who are not as smart as you. I never said you were dumb.
Well, let me respond to that.
When you rewind this, you'll see I never called you dumb. Yeah. I said you were being sarcastic.
You don't need to be...
Because
with respect, Mark,
I think you're being snarky with the
Mark,
question.
you don't need to be
so again...
With respect, you don't need to be a social scientist to know that there is zero evidence of any
This is what Piers does, though.
For what Daniel Penny did. So people who are trying to infer it that somehow, as the founder of BLM in New York says, if you think he's innocent, you're a racist, and the KKK just got another victory. I'm not a social scientist, but I know that's horseshit.
Right. Again, the statement from the BLM person in New York, I don't share, I don't echo, I don't agree with. You're asking me to defend a statement that I don't agree with. The statement that I am making, that you and I should be engaging, is the issue of implicit bias and the issue of use of force. There is.
What bias?
There is. I said,
Do you think someone should be killed
okay,
if the person is no longer an immediate
you
threat
think
to
if
the
Jordan
public?
Neely had been white and came on that subway, right, and was acting like a deranged lunatic?
Yeah, Piers is
as
being
he was,
completely
if he'd
triggering.
been
He's being
white,
totally
do you think
unreasonable.
that Daniel Penny wouldn't have intervened? Because that's what you're implying.
That's not what I'm implying. What I'm saying
bias
is.
then?
Piers exists solely to try to make liberals and left-leaning people seem completely unhinged, as he completely misconstrues and everything that they're saying, lies about their position, exaggerates their position, will do incredibly harsh and insensitive things, like bring up a video of a father mourning over his dead son and saying that that this man is unreasonably lecturing people about how the system is rigged against people like him. Like, this is Piers is just like, there's oh man, Jesus Christ, it just, like, my skin like tightens, like at the thought that someone can honestly be so evil.
But where's the bias?
Evidence. Okay.
Where's
implicit bias? That's not what implicit. Okay. Let me use it. It's clear that you don't understand what implicit bias is, so let me just use a different word, with all due respect.
Hat on.
If you just let me finish the sentence, I promise you'll hear me.
Oh my God! I don't know why anyone goes on this show.
I have no reason to believe that he was motivated by race or that he was not motivated by race. But the idea that someone could be motivated by race is not outside of the realm of possibility, based on ample data that shows that people are more likely to use force against black people, that they tend to believe that black bodies are stronger and more physically resilient, and therefore they think they have to hold them in chokeholds longer. There's plenty of police data that shows that, including New York Police Department data. So when you asked me to show other examples, no, I don't have examples of other Michael Jackson impersonators on subways being choked by Marines, but there is other evidence of people in very comparable circumstances where race has mattered. But again, I'm not making a racial argument. I'm saying that the guy choked him too long and he should still be alive right now. And the fact that he was held for that many minutes and people on the subway were literally saying, "You're killing him," that is evidence that he should have stopped. Again, I'm not taking issue with the subduing of him. I'm taking issue with how long he held him, how long he choked him, and that he didn't stop him. Once that big guy's on top of him and he has physical control, and there's a whole subway watching, he could have stopped choking him. That's all I'm saying.
Listen. Obviously, he choked him for too long, or the guy would still be alive. It's whether he did this deliberately, and obviously.
What? Even if you kill someone and it's not deliberate, that's called manslaughter. That's still a crime. You still have to face justice for that. What?
He didn't. So let's just agree on those two facts.
I disagree.
Let's move to the other story, because Taylor's been waiting patiently here. So this issue of Brian Thompson, one of the top healthcare executives in the country. I'm just curious why your first reaction would be to his cold-blooded execution. And people wonder why we want these executives dead. And then you later commented, when people were giving you a lot of blowback, "I'm not alone," you said. Healthcare executive down with party balloons was on an X post that you commented on. Why would you?
Obviously choked him for too long, killed him even though he shouldn't have. Cool, Piers, glad we agree.